I guess I've been thinking about making this video for a long time. I don't know, my tablet's being weird, but I've been thinking about making this video for a couple of days now because I was having a conversation with my mom, and lately I've been having a lot of time, or having I've been able to spend a lot of time with myself, so I've been figuring out a lot of different things about myself because when your life is kind of in the spotlight and everybody has questions about you and everything like that, or they make their own assumptions about you, you start to kind of analyze yourself a little bit. Like, am I like that? Are they right about me? And then sometimes when you're a person like me, you might internalize things and whatever. So I've just been kind of analyzing myself and understanding a little bit more about certain things about myself. I say all that to say, and I'm going to preface this for people who might know me or work with me. This is not about people saying that I love to date moms, even though I guess I might kind of talk about that too. But it's just, um, so basically, one of the biggest questions that a lot of people have, especially as of late, is why do you date the people that you date? I saw this video on TikTok. I just got on TikTok, and it's this girl. I can't remember her name, but she was talking about, oh, you knew what type of person that this person was, and you knew that they hurt you. You knew your heart was heavy with them, and you chose to stay. That doesn't have anything to do with them, because you're not naive. You knew what you were getting from that relationship pretty much, and you chose to stay. And that is like the biggest kind of lesson I've learned when looking back on a lot of the relationships that I've dealt with. And two, I just recently got asked this by one of my best friends, funnily enough, and my mom, because of recent choices. And I've been, because every time people say that, it will bother me. Like, the way I look at it, there's something that I see in people, in the people that I've dated or talked to, have gotten close with everything. There's a person I see underneath all of, I see what's underneath the mask. So when people are like, well, why did you stay, or why are you still here? It kind of irritated me in a sense, because it's like, well, you don't see what I see. But I also had to realize, just because you see the underneath the mask doesn't mean you have to stay. But I realized a couple days ago, but especially about the most recent person. But I realized the past three people that I've talked to or dated, I would I see more of them, and I realize it's an empathy thing. I'm an empath, and I've been around women all my life, so it's kind of understandable that I would have a better understanding of them than, I guess, a lot of men that don't try to. And like I told my mom, for all intents and purposes, I'm usually emotionally, I'm the woman in the relationship, I feel like, because I deal with a lot of people who kind of give up on being the most vulnerable and the most soft because they've been hurt. Now I'm the one that's the vulnerable and soft when I try to get them out, get them from being, try to get them comfortable with being open and vulnerable and soft. But that's usually not the case. Like, every time I hear people talk about a relationship, well, a woman does this, a man does this. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm feminine in any type of way, but I'm the one that cooks. I'm usually the one that cleans. I haven't had a woman cook for me yet, and I haven't really had anything to clean because this is my first apartment. But it's like, I'm the one that takes care of them emotionally, and I clean up and everything like that. And then it's like the way he handles situations. I'm the one that's usually more emotional because I'm not afraid to be. open with my emotions. Well, to a certain extent. I say most of the time, or sometime, whatever I just said, because of that's where the empathy comes from. I had to look up sympathy and empathy just to make sure I'm using the correct terminology, and I might put them in this video, whatever I post. And I know sympathy is like when you feel similar feelings to somebody, like when they're going through something, you feel those same emotions. Whereas empathy, you kind of recognize. Hold on. It's basically like you can understand a person's emotions without necessarily being like directly in, or it's like full communication. Like there's no communication that has to really go on for you to feel it. And I'm pretty sure I can explain that better, but it's kind of like a quick look up, like I said. And that's where I end up putting a lot of my emotions to the side, because I realize that one, in a relationship, I'm usually, at least this past couple relationships, I'm usually the nice guy. I don't mean the nice guy that gets mad or that acts nice just because he's trying to get something out of you. Even though I've been that guy and I haven't been the full honest person that I could be because I'm trying to be the nice guy. And I've said this before to them. I'm the guy that you go to when you've dealt with a bunch of BS, you've dealt with a lot of people that weren't treating you right, you've done all these good things and everything for them. You weren't treated as nicely as you should be and as you deserve to be. So you meet a guy like me, and it's like, okay, this is nice, this is different. You're not necessarily, which might not even be at all, your type. But you decide that you don't like your type, and you go for me because I happen to be nice. For most part, I'm pretty put together when I, try. And, I'm not going to sit here and treat anybody wrong. Like, I don't try to go and treat people wrong. I try to be nice and everything like that, and I'm calm. The only reason I don't stay calm is when people take me out of character. The problem within myself comes from understanding that I'm the type of person that a lot of women run away from, because I'm not going to say I challenge you emotionally or anything like that. I can, when I'm not in my own full swing of depression, and I'm like right now, I feel like I'm in my most emotionally mature era that I've been in. But for a lot of the women that I've talked to and everything like that, they're kind of scared of the type of relationship that I could provide, because it's not one that's full of conflict if I can help it. And I try to give them a space to be loved and properly taken care of, and they run from that. It's no fault on them. I understand there's a lot of healing that needs to be done to be able to accept someone like me. But when it gets to the point that they start pushing me away, they start acting, ways that aren't necessarily nice, or they start acting, you know, in a way that doesn't, they're not treating me the way I deserve. I'm like, oh, I understand you've been hurt by so many people, let me just love you a little bit more and give you, more, just a little more space to really kind of get used to somebody like me. And let me just love you a little harder, take care of you a little more, show you that I'm not gonna run away just because you showing me some of the cracks, because I understand that deep down inside there's a lot of healing that needs to be done again. But what good is your healing if I'm damaging myself? And the thing that I've noticed, like I said, when people ask me, why did you stay with them, or why do you still deal with them, and all this and that, and I just look like, I told somebody this about the last person I was with, and it's like a lot of people had a lot of issues with our relationship because they've all had their opinions. But for me, it was like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but I see that person that needed somebody like me. And that's with the last couple of people I've talked to. Not a lot of people are on their side. I mean, understandable knowing them. They push a lot of people away and everything like that. But it's like I see why you act like that. Like I see the inner child that isn't healed, and I want to take care of that. Which again, you know, I've grown up most of my life with my mom and then female friends that I've had. So I haven't really had the whole tough guy, whatever. But I'm very nourishing. You know, I try to take care of a lot of people's emotions. That's why people usually look at me as like the big brother. I recently upgraded to being work dad. It's like people, a lot of women gravitate towards me because of that nourishing spirit that I provide. And even with older women and younger women, it's the same because they understand what I can provide. And I kind of put up with a lot of crap because I understand that you need a safe place. And there's been so many times where I haven't had my own safe space, so I try to be that for other people, but they can't reciprocate. And I basically say all that to say that basically, well, my best friend says that I'm basically like a shelter because I keep taking care of wounded animals. And my mom said I like trying to fix broken women. So it's like, yeah, it gets to a point where I understand that you can't necessarily fix a person. It's not your job. It's not your ability to fix somebody that doesn't want to be fixed. You kind of have to focus on yourself. But I don't know. I just have a lot of empathy for people. It's like I see people that everybody else is against, and that's the person that I want to go harder for. That's how I ended up getting a work daughter because everybody was against her. I was even against her at first, but then she became my work daughter. And I don't know, for me it's just hard giving up on people that I've seen everybody else give up on. Like even with this last thing, not even the last thing, the second before last thing that I'm dealing with, it's just you get pushed to a point where you don't want to deal with anything, and it's hard because I still have a confusing relationship when it comes to sex and love. I'm still young in that department. I'm still kind of understanding emotions and everything like that. So when you factor that in on top of already having the spirit that you have, and then I even told my mom, the reason I have these problems in relationships, I love my parents, but because of the fact that I never had true conflict resolution when it comes to when it comes to dealing with their emotions. Like my mom, if she felt some type of way, she wouldn't talk to me. She would ignore me. I've seen her do it to my dad too. It's like she wouldn't talk to either one of us. Silent treatment was a big thing in the household when it came to her. And then my dad, anytime he got mad, everything was just cut off. You couldn't even talk to him. There was probably some yelling going on. I don't really remember it, but it's like I knew once he was mad and I seen the look in his eyes, there was no way that I was gonna be able to get my point across. And dealing with that really left me with some very terrible conflict resolution skills. Like I'm usually the calmer one because I'm so used to kind of pushing myself down to accommodate everybody else, and I deal with very, not necessarily angry, but very emotional people. I know that kind of contradicts what I said before, but it's usually emotional as in anger. Like these are people that kind of blow up about things that might not seem like a big deal. We get into arguments, and I'm usually the person that is tempered down. Like my best friend put it as, like with the last person I was dating, it was like she was the big dog, he was the little puppy, which is ironic because a friend was like, Dale seems so intimidating. And it's like, I can be because I don't like to be approachable a lot of times. But in relationships, I would be the little pup because I don't necessarily know how to deal with anger other than to shut down and just deal with it. It breaks my heart every time I deal with it, but no one ever taught me how to talk about it or deal with it healthily, so I shut down. Like the only time I've ever even really express my emotions is when it gets built up to a point that I end up blowing up. And that's a thing I hated a lot as a kid, was knowing that a lot of my actions were similar to my dad, because I never really liked his anger. I didn't like how he would deal with conflicts at times. And, you know, being having even some slight reminiscence of that in myself was a problem that I had, because I'm not an angry person. I realize that it's a process to my anger. It's sadness, and then it gets built up to anger, because it's sadness that I'm trying to do this properly. I'm trying to communicate how I feel. People keep disrespecting me or the little boundaries that I set, and I keep telling them not to do it, or I keep trying to fix it, or I keep trying to push it under the rug, and then I get mad because it's not working out the way I want it to. And I even said this talking to my ex, and I told her, not necessarily that, but I told her, I was like, I'm not mad at you, and I don't want you to feel like you weren't doing what you're supposed to do in a relationship, which she wasn't. I told her. I felt alone when we were together. My uncle died. I'm sitting on the phone with you, and we don't talk for 30 minutes, and you don't come over and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm not mad at you because of the fact that I didn't set my boundaries properly. And when I finally decided to set my boundaries and say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. It became a point of, well, why not? We talked about this already. Well, why not? We talked about this already. It wasn't going anywhere. And then there was conflict from that because of something else I did that was dumb. But, you know, it is what it is. And I've been learning the fact that me not setting those boundaries and everything, trying to be the good guy and all of that, was me being dishonest with myself and then being dishonest with everybody else. Because how can I say I'm a good person if I'm good at the expense of my own sanity or my own happiness? Like, yeah, I'm a person that likes to take care of people. I'm nourishing, like I said. I want people to be happy. I don't want anybody to feel bad around me. But why do I keep putting up with people trying to make me feel bad, or people that do make me feel bad, whether they try to or not? That doesn't benefit me. And I can empathize with anybody in the world, but what good is that empathy if they won't even show me the slightest bit of sympathy and understand where I'm coming from or how I feel when I express my emotions, instead of trying to brush it off like I would do to myself? Which I guess circles back to why I'm, more attuned to moms, which I've only dated one mom, talked to another mom, and everybody's like, "Oh, Dale's going after the moms," but it's just like I tell people, there was a maturity about older women. I've always liked older women when I was younger, because like I said, it's a certain maturity, and then you have kids that lets me know how you handle situations, how emotionally intelligent you are, and how you deal with conflicts and everything like that. Like I said, it just shows me what type of person you are. But it's come to the point where it's like, I see how you treat your child, and you treat me worse than you would treat a child. Like, I literally was like, I've seen how nice you can be to the kids. Why can't you show me that when I'm in need of those feelings? Which kind of leads me to believe that there isn't anybody around me right now that I need to date, because I have to figure out myself, which I have been. I think I have a pretty good understanding of myself, and I'm learning more and more. But it's like the more I would be in a better place when it comes to relationships if I didn't, not gonna say settle, but if I didn't keep dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with, because there's a certain pattern that you attract when you're not growing, and when you keep not learning lessons, you keep repeating the test until you pass it. And that's what I've been going through. Kind of funny to me, because my best friend said the other day, she was like, the quality of people you've talked to has gone down since a certain somebody. And it's kind of funny because she was the only person that I've ever pursued in my adult life. Like my first girlfriend, I pursued her. That didn't work out because I was an ass. Um, and I think pretty much every other woman in my life pursued me. And usually the woman that pursued me, well, you see, I'm still single, so obviously we know where that went. I feel like the biggest thing, the reason why the girl I did pursue didn't work out was because we weren't on the same page. We both had our issues. I was severely depressed at the time, and she had her stuff going on. I had my stuff going on. We couldn't be in sync, and it it's interesting because I even told my mom, and I've been telling people, it's like, I have a type. They're like, everybody like, you have a type, you like moms, blah blah. But I'm like, maybe my type isn't for me. But then I told my mom I wouldn't even know what to do with a nice young lady that treats me well. Because I was like, when I finally have a woman that treats me like I would treat the people that I've been treating, I would end up being like them because I wouldn't know what to do. I'd always be looking for signs that something is wrong, there's something off. I told my mom, I was like, I'm getting along with a lot of women, and I see them and I don't see anything underneath it. And I was like, that's so confusing for me because I'm so used to a lot of people having a mask on. Because a lot of people don't try to show you, at least the women I'm dealing with, they don't try to show you the the vulnerability. Like my ex, I keep telling her she has to let go of all of these negative emotions she's holding on, but she doesn't. She always has to put on the tough mom persona for everybody, so that prevents her from being who she is. Well, from being a better version of who she is, I would say. And, you know, of course, when you deal with as much stuff as the last people I talked to, you kind of become a different person. I get that. I understand that. They're just not the people for me. But it's confusing to, deal with all these people that have dealt with so much different trauma, and then see like people I get along with really well, and I see them for them. There's nothing underneath the surface. They show up as themselves. I feel like when I meet a person like that and actually get to date them, then I might end up masking myself because I'm like, well, every time that I am this type of person that's myself, I get used and abused. So I just gotta wait and see what's going on. And then 6 months go on, a year go on, and then boom, still nothing. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. But then it could also be one of the best things that ever happens to me, which I'm sure it will be because Lordy Lord. But I don't know. It's just something that I've thought about as of recently. And like I said, I talked to my mom about this because it's been something that's been on my mind for a while, because even I couldn't explain why I, dealt with people the way I did. Because so many people was like, "Damn, you don't need to deal with these people," and everybody sees what they want to see from the outside, which I mean, they're usually right anyway. It was like you don't see, like it's like dealing with people that are in abusive relationships. You don't see what that person sees because they look past the abuse because they see something else. You don't see that looking out. And, I've never been beat on or anything like that. And nobody slashed my tires or anything like that. But emotionally neglectful relationships can feel just as abusive sometimes. Well, I'm not going to say just as abusive. They can feel abusive. And, you don't really think about it until you get out of it. And like, yeah, that was a very toxic situation to be in. And, now I understand it a little bit more, that you see a different side of somebody, whether they are abusing you or not, or a lot of times you feel like you deserve it. And I know I felt plenty of times I felt like I deserved just as much as I was getting, if not even less than that. So in conclusion, um, let's set some boundaries and understand who we are and why we are the way we are so that we can have healthy relationships because it's 2023 now. The Jaguars winning some games. The world is going to end. So I'd rather in the world being the happiest person I can be for as long as I can be. Plus I'm 25. So like if I'm not happy by 26, something ain't right and I need to get my life together. So yeah,